Hey, welcome back to another episode of Wholistic Conversations. I'm your host, Brittney, and today we have Amyr on, and he is going to talk about private equity, okay? And if y'all don't know nothing about it, stay tuned because we're going to talk all about it, okay? So thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come sit on a couch and have a conversation with me.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. This is nice.
Thank you.
Nice setup.
Thank you so much. So break it down for the people who might not know what private equity is or exactly what do you do. Let the people know, what do you do?
All right. So I deal in law. It's private exclusive equity jurisprudence. It's a specialized part of the law that tends to deal with more of the civil side of things, but we are able to apply it to criminal type situations and a multitude of other scenarios. And that all comes back to dealing with the birth certificate and how you perceive that and that name on it.
Okay. And give me an example of you say, like, how can I use this for, like, being a criminal, right?
So all right. So I don't like to get into criminal cases.
Okay.
Now I will deal with like non-violent criminal cases, but when it comes to like criminal stuff, I try to stay away from that just because that can get sticky. You don't really know what happened, wasn't there. It's always three sides to the story, and I just like to stay out of that.
Okay.
But yeah, so like when it comes to non-violent criminal cases or even debt collectors, land rights, just anything like that, it comes to, people passing away in their estate, we deal with all of that. And so, but more so in a criminal situation, non-violent, it would be where the name on the birth certificate is what gets you like jammed up in a situation. So they're charging the name on the birth certificate with, let's say, a violation. So like if it's, let's say like, I like to use like traffic court or something like that. So they're charging you with a violation, the name on the birth certificate. Now I educate people on suretyship, which a part of that will fall under exclusive equity jurisprudence. So the way I educate people that is you're the surety for the name on the birth certificate. So if you can,
So are you saying something like, I am not the person on a birth certificate?
correct.
Okay.
A lot of people
Essentially,
think
it's
they
like
are.
a different entity, like a business or something like that. So the debt that is owed to that person on the birth certificate isn't really me.
Correct.
Okay.
So the way I educate people is you're secondarily responsible for that debt or obligation. The name on the birth certificate, that entity is primarily responsible. And so being that you are secondarily responsible, if you take care of that debt or obligation, which we do every day, we pay bills, we, court fees, lawyer fees, whatever it is, right? We pay traffic tickets off, all that, right? So when you do that as a surety, you have certain rights, to which you got to think of it like this. If you paid off somebody's debt, then they are happy, right? And so if you paid off somebody's debt, that means you gave money to a creditor. So now the creditor is happy. But now you're not happy, right? Because you're without. Nobody made you whole. So that's why I educate people on it. You have to be made whole. So what does that look like? That looks like you recouping your equity in a court case, which would be, if it's a traffic ticket, that could be, okay, I paid off a $250 traffic ticket for that name on the birth certificate. Now I require a check for $250.
So you want your money back.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay.
But a lot of people look at that and be like, how do you think you're entitled to it? And that's the part that I educate people on under exclusive equity jurisprudence.
Wow. So that's very interesting that the debt we have isn't really ours. and we can actually get it back,
Yes.
get the money back we spent on the debt.
Yes.
Okay, and what's the first step to that? Because even when I think I heard something about our name is in all caps for a reason on the birth certificate. So what does that mean exactly?
That means you're civilly dead. That means it's almost like, not even almost. So, when people catch a felony, right? Then it's like only so many things it's a lot of things you can't do, right? Or you have problems with, right? Mm-hmm. So being civilly dead is worse than having a felony.
Because you don't exist in
So from a private capacity, you don't have any of those private rights. Now we are brought up in a public capacity, so that's all that we know of. So when I speak of things on the private side, it's a completely new world. You didn't even know it exists. You didn't know. It's almost like you didn't know what you were missing out on until I educate you on it.
and that's something similar to the state owning us.
Yes.
And that's why they have the right to come in and take the child, because the child is not yours. The parents is really the state.
Yes, they created the birth certificate. Mm-hmm. You think you're the birth certificate, that name on the birth certificate. So therefore, they own you because they created that.
Wow, that's deep. So let's rewind. How did you get into this?
Oh man, so I'll give you the short version. That years after I graduated from high school, I'm originally from Indianapolis, Indiana. A guy that I went to school with, he started calling me God, started calling me King, and I mean, at that time I really hadn't did anything, hadn't helped nobody or really. So I don't.
You're like, why are you calling me God
Exactly.
King?
Why are you calling me that? Right.
Right.
So he started educating me on, the history of, just people that look like us, like let's say Black Americans, right? And then that just led me into, it sparked my brain. Like, okay, we weren't just slaves. Like, there's a whole different history. Like, so that sparked my brain. I started looking into just more of the history period on, on these lands. And got on YouTube, started doing my research, ran into the Moors, started understanding that and how I'm a Moor and everything. And
you claim yourself as a Moor?
Yes, I just do things differently because I understand the system that we're in. So I do things differently.
Okay. And are Moors Native Americans, or that's two different?
We are native to America, but when people say Native Americans, they don't think of Moors. But when you go through history, you'll understand that we were here before what you would call Native Americans.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, keep going.
So where was I at?
You were talking about you ran into the guy.
Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah. So I got on YouTube and started learning more about the Moors, obviously, and that got me into learning more about the history of just America, period. And Taj Tariq Bey is who I started studying on YouTube. He started educating me about driver's license fraud. And then I had moved to Houston. Well, I had moved to San Antonio. And, I was trying to figure out life and stuff. Was out there finessing it with the paper plate, changing the date on it and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So
you didn't want to get you didn't want to register your car, so you would change the date?
Well, I'm not one of them people that's just gonna jump off the bridge. You know what I mean? So I still was looking at it like, okay, I got a suspended license. I just moved to this new city. I don't really know people. So I'm still trying to just be cool about the situation. I'm not trying to jump off the bridge, but at the same time, I ain't got a whole lot of money. I'm trying to figure it out.
Right.
So I got to finesse these plates. That's really what it's about. I ain't had no money, so I had to do what I had to do.
Yeah. So you would take the sticker off. Like, how do you do that?
No, it's the paper plates. I would just get on what you call it, like a DocuSign, and even say Canva and doctor it up. That's what I would do. Print it and then
just
slap it on there. slap it back on there.
Right.
Put the screws on it and
Okay.
plate cover. Yeah, I had to do what I had to do. Ended up getting pulled over. Got a traffic ticket. Like I said, I ain't had no money to pay it, so I just let it do what it do.
So it's a new plate, so it's not registered in their system yet, so they
No,
can't.
so that's what I figured out too. You know what I
Okay.
mean? So it's like, oh, so when I got pulled over, he was like, well, it's not showing anything in my system. I'm like, yeah, it's a new car, and you know what I mean? And he's like, okay. So he told me, we're just gonna start a new record in our system for you. Bet.
Right.
Bet. My license was already suspended anyway, so I'm like, bet, cool. But that turned into a warrant, and so I ain't had no money for no lawyer. You know, I started, educating myself on, driver's license fraud. This kind of where I got into exclusive equity and started learning about trust and challenging jurisdiction. And boom, I had to execute what I was learning because I ain't had no money for no lawyer. I wasn't trying to go to jail or none of that. This first time having a warrant too. So I executed.
And you won?
Yeah, my entire case disappeared from the docket. And I ended up running into a retired federal judge, and like he told me my trust is one of the best in the country. So now I educate people in Matisse Academy on how to create that trust.
Okay. And I kind of want to break that down a little bit. Like, what was the first couple of steps you took for preparing yourself to win a case like that?
So I developed like a plan to study this book called Suits and Chancery by Henry Gibson. Had a plan to study that and to continue, that book, it educates you on like a lot of things, but exclusive equity jurisprudence, and it educates you on trust. And I continue to study about jurisdiction too under Tariq Bey, like on YouTube. And so, I came up with the plan to continue studying that, dedicate so many hours. Like I always say, life be life, and so I couldn't really stick to the plan like I wanted to, but I still did what I could do.
Right.
And I mean, that's really like I was able to study like 4 hours a day.
Right, but studying it and doing it is two different things.
Yeah,
Right?
it is. So I mean, in terms of actually executing, so in terms of actually executing, you have to understand like first what you were doing fully, right? And then it's literally like in that situation, I wanted to issue a quo warranto. Well, that's understanding what an abatement is. That's understanding your capacity as a private individual, which means you're operating under the original written constitution, and you're going to have to be able to express those principles. So, meaning there's a separation of governmental powers. There's no lawful money in circulation. I have a right to face my accuser. I have a right to civilian due process. All these things are things that you want to express in your paperwork, along with Bible scriptures and equity maxims.
So this and you take this everywhere you go? Is this something you created? Like is it a packet? And
No, these are things that, so when it comes, like, we do a name correction, status correction. Like, we go through the courts and do that and have the judges, like, sign off on it. And I take that everywhere with me pretty much. Like, but outside of that, no. You just, like, I just
it's like a
educate
one-time
people,
file,
like,
like
you
you
need to
file
know.
these. Oh, you just need to have it in
You
here.
need to know. Like, I want people,
it.
like, it's got to be second nature because, like, I mean, that's just the way, like, the way America is set up is everybody is supposed to know law in order to handle your own affairs. Like, like how you know math, you should know law to a degree so that you can handle your own affairs. Like, that's how America was set up ever since it's been colonized.
So why do you think they don't teach us about this? It seems like every guest is pulling out another era in the system. Like, this right here sounds like we should know this, right? You say it's just as important as math. Like, you're learning this in school. Why aren't we being taught this information?
Well, when I started this journey, what I realized is that the way this kind of world works is there's a duality. And there's a duality in everything, right? That's what they push. we obviously know there's a different side to that. We're all connected. We're all one, right? But they push there's a duality. And I can see that in this realm. Like, that's how it is. And so with that being said, there's the God and there's the devil, right? There's high vibrations, low vibrations. There's public side, there's the private side. There's lawful, there's legal, or like we'll say commerce. So understanding that, it's like everything that that we know and how we were brought up is to take you away from God. It's the opposite of God. And so that allows me to see everything in a completely different light.
Right. Wow. And they don't want us to be our godlike
Exactly.
selves. They want us to be the opposite.
Exactly.
So they keep this information away from us so we're not tapping into our God-given abilities.
Exactly.
Wow, this is pretty good. This is really cool. And what do your parents think about this?
So at first, of course, they thought that was wild. But then when they, they see me, first off, I helped myself out, right? I got rid of a warrant, first warrant I ever had. Boom. So, okay. But then when I really started helping a lot of people and like really became the go-to guy, it's like, dang, okay, it's got to be something to what he's really saying. And so, they just paid attention more and more, start asking more questions. And now, they all the way on board, number one supporters, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Shout out to the parents,
That's what's up. Because parents are typically the hardest people to, support you sometimes, especially when you're doing something so different, right? Because you're essentially going against the system.
Yeah.
So even you fighting your warrant, so for instance, I have a brother and he was working at Amazon. He pulled his truck over to deliver a package downtown Chicago. And he ended up, basically the police officer told him don't park there, he gonna give him a ticket. He like, okay, give me the ticket and I'm going in here to deliver the package. My brother come out, the police officer in the car taking the keys out, and then my brother like, hey, what you doing? Like, and basically escalated. They put him in jail. Then he had to go to court. And sometimes when we don't know better, like even me, I'm like, no, they try to give him, what is it? When they give you an offer like, hey, take this, a plea, right? He like, no, he not taking it. But as the family that care about my brother, we like, no, take it, right? But he like, I ain't do nothing wrong and I'm not taking it. But he ended up beating the whole case, got thrown out. He wasn't charged with a felony because that's so like, you're about to get charged with a felony and then you're going against the police. Them two don't mix up. Take the plea deal.
I get it. Especially, how we brought up and stuff. So, like, I get it. It's like, yo, you can't beat these people. You know what I mean? Like, you better take what they can give you. You know what I mean? What they offering. So, I get it. You know what I mean? And then, unless people really been through that or just, like, know somebody, it's like, you don't really know how the outcome
gonna
be. You know what I mean? So, I get it. But I think, even without... your brother knowing what I, educate people on, it's like, that just shows like you really gotta stand for what you know, stand for what you believe in. Like if you ain't do nothing wrong, then no.
Right.
And that's a lot of what comes with, understanding what we do. It's like, yeah, you may think you have done something wrong. And that's not to say that you didn't commit a violation in their eyes, but what is the law from the private capacity in which that's really how you should be viewing things.
Right. That's good. And a lot of people need to learn. We need to learn about this. So what was one of your biggest cases you felt like you helped somebody with? I'm sure you got a lot of them. So you got to...
It is, but that's a good question. I really never had nobody ask me that, really. People always ask me about the bad ones. We got a lot of them too. Let me see. A good one. Okay. Now, I'll give you, and if you want a different one, I'll give you a different one. But so I didn't help this person directly, as in me and him were on phone calls all the time, and like, or I assigned him a case manager or something like that. But the information that like I gave him my ebook, and then I put plenty of information out on my platform on Instagram. So on last year on Mother's Day, I had a giveaway where I was giving out like 3 ebooks. And, went live and I made, people answer questions. Well, this this one person, he kept answering questions. I'm thinking he a female at first until he told me, like he was just being honest, like, nah, I'm a guy, you know what I mean? And I'm like, well, this is only for the mothers, you know what I mean? I appreciate you, you know what I mean? But
Right.
every time I asked a question, like he was the first one to respond and he always had it right. So I'm like, all right, man, I gotta give him something, man. I can't ignore it. So I gave him my ebook and he was studying my page. Turns out like he was going through it. He was in the shelter. Yeah, he was in the shelter and he was battling. He was in a custody battle for his baby girl, and so that ebook that I gave him, which was my traffic court ebook, and I got one now that's like dedicated solely for like home births and custody, right? But I gave him that ebook and he studied my page, and he had to go to court 5 times. And he went in there, stood on what he believed, stood on what, my information I put out there relating to custody. And when it was all said and done, the judge looked him dead in his eyes and said, "What do you want to happen here?" He told the judge what he wanted to happen. The judge literally wrote it up, what he said. And that's how it happened. And in fact, that's pretty much how it happens for all the custody cases that we get involved when people take it serious, regardless if we help them directly or indirectly. So shout out to my guy Carlos. He's actually on my team now as a consultant, and he's helping
Okay.
people directly.
That's exciting. That's really good news.
Yeah.
So can do you have to pay child support?
Child support, that's a big one, man.
That's a big one. People love that. They trying to get out of it.
Yeah, so child support, man, we get a lot of backlash for that, but child support is unconstitutional. And it's about overall, what I talk about and educate people on, it's about educating yourself, understanding your rights. It's about doing bigger and better business. And so that's what it comes down to for both parties. And that might not be the popular answer, but it's like that's what it really is. And also, and I'm putting this out there, because we get a backlash. So before I get into it, I gotta say this. So, but what I tell people is that listen, any man that is really gonna educate themselves, to terminate child support, is not the type of man that's trying to get out of his responsibilities. He's gonna take care of his child. You know what I mean? And y'all gonna figure it out, and he's gonna be fair. He doesn't feel like things are fair. They're not fair, and perhaps I don't know. Sometimes, other parties are just not being fair, as we know, regardless if that's a man or a woman. Because I get both that ask me about terminating child support.
Wow.
So that's what it's really about. But when it comes down to it, child support, do you have to pay child support? Yes. Through the state? No. Like, no, it shouldn't be through the state. You should just take care of your responsibilities and pay however y'all work that out. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
whatever that looks like for y'all. And again, that may not be the popular answer, but that's the reality. And so we handle child support. If you're getting like a new case, like it's a new summons, then we handle it like how we handle majority of cases when you get a new summons. You challenge the jurisdiction of the court of everything. You go into it with an abatement. Because you're coming in a private capacity. You're not coming in as that name on the birth certificate, even though that's how they're pulling you into the situation. But suretyship comes about when you are pulled into a situation like that by compulsion. And so that's what's going on here. And then if you're already paying, then you need to express suretyship and understand your capacity, their capacity, your rights, their rights and duties. Like once you can write all that out on paper and say who is who, what their responsibilities are, what their rights are and everything, then you'll be able to terminate child support, and you'll have to make that call with your spouse, and y'all figure that out. You know what I mean?
Right, right. Even this is with your name on the birth certificate.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's good. Some people,
And no lawyer is going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
They can get stuff reduced, which is cool, and perhaps that's all you want. But majority of people want child support terminated, and no lawyer can do that. At least no lawyer that I know or seen. I've had celebrities contact me about child support and how it goes and all that, and it's like, I explain it to them. We get to work, and
yeah.
that's what it is.
Wow. I feel like getting out of child support, I understand why some people would want to do that, especially fathers, right? Imagine working hard and then the government coming in and taking this money out of your check. That's the worst thing ever.
Yes, check only. You make what you make, and only seeing 20% of that or something. That's not good. And then there's even like I got a reel on my page where a guy literally spent like 5 years in jail total or something like that over not paying child support, only to find out the kid wasn't even his. Now he has to take some accountability for that, right? But yeah, that should have never happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In a situation like that, what I educate people on is going to help them.
Okay, and let's talk about birth certificates, right? I'm a mother. I home birthed both of my children.
Right.
The first one we used the midwife. The second one we did a free birth. And currently they don't have their Social Security, birth certificates, and things like that. And I was influenced by their father, but I felt like he was educated, but he didn't have the steps, right? So I'm like, you know what? This isn't for me. I need to just give up and get the birth certificate because it can always be undone as well, right?
Undone. I don't know if I would really say that. I mean, can you like redeem the birth certificate? Yeah, but like I keep it real with people when it comes to like redeeming birth certificates. Like redeeming a birth certificate is like your chances of doing that is equivalent to you becoming a general manager for a major league team. In the NBA, there's only 32 positions, and they probably been there God knows how long, right?
Right.
Like your chances of doing that, like it's easier to become an NBA player versus an NBA general manager or even the owner. Like, so that's how
small the chances
yes,
are.
yeah. But can you redeem other securities? Yes, and your chances for that are higher. But even then, that will probably be equivalent to. I mean, your chances are extremely higher when it comes to just redeeming other securities for sure, like extremely higher.
Okay.
But yeah, birth certificate, yeah, it's like that's just hard.
And a lot of people, says if your child do not have a birth certificate, they can't drive. It's hard to go to school. They can't travel. They can't get a job. They can't go to college. Is that true?
None of that is true. Will it be different or a challenge for you? Yes. But it's rewarding when you're not held to statutes, codes, policies that don't necessarily favor you. So the reward is you get treated differently because you're looked at as special because you're in a whole different capacity. You're in a private capacity. So that looks different.
Okay.
So, but none of that is true. And that's why I educate people on like how to do those things, how to be set up, and how to just like navigate those situations.
Okay. And so give me, let's say, the first 3 steps again with how, like, me being a mother, what can I do to make sure that my child is like taken care of?
Okay. So let's start from the beginning, right? So in your situation, you would. So all right, you have a newborn, right? You want to create a Bible record.
Okay, I have that.
Yeah, that's what you want. That's first thing. That beats a birth certificate any day of the week.
And that's literally buying a Bible off of Amazon and filling in the information on the Bible.
Yep,
Okay.
literally. Yeah, I even had people in the academy already that found like old records like from the 1800s that was in their family, and they was already, you know what I mean? That's what they're doing. And that's that's the mind frame that you have to go to. Of course, we wasn't born in the 1700s, right? So it's kind of hard to get there, but like that's kind of the mind frame that you have to be in. But so
Okay.
yeah, you create your Bible record. Then you need to create a living estate trust, or essentially an equitable estate in a trust, irrevocable trust.
Okay.
You'll need to do that, and then you'll obviously need to like record those notices so the public knows that something happened in the private, and so you have your records and everything. Then after that, I would say you could create another. You could create like another entity, say like an LLC, in your child's name, and to which a trust would own. And then you can conduct a business like that in the public for your child. But
Okay. So do I need a live birth record or anything, or the Bible is good enough?
Bible record is good enough. That's divine law.
Okay. And speaking of, parenthood, you have a daughter,
Yes.
one daughter.
Yeah, one daughter. She's 4.
Okay. Is
She's
she
5.
in the system, or is she private or not private?
No, she's private. She's all
Yeah.
the way private.
Okay. Did you birth in a hospital or at home?
So that's the thing about that. We had planned, and this is also why I'm passionate about this. Like super, super passionate. Like I don't play around when it comes to this. So from my own situation, I'll like give you a short version. So we had planned to be at home, right? Everything we did. We had doula. We had what I say one of the best midwives in the country who really knew her stuff, knew how everything was gonna go down if we had to go to a hospital, like knew everything, right?
Yeah.
She did not have a license from the state, which was super important that she did not have one, because then you are regulated by state laws.
Right.
So, we ended up. My child's mother was in, I think you call it back labor, for like a whole week.
Okay.
And so at that point, she was exhausted. It was an emergency. We had to go to the hospital. Of course, they didn't want to believe her at first that she was even in pain like that. But then, we had to advocate for her and all that. Finally, we got, they admitted her and everything. And yeah, so that was a whole crazy situation, because at the time, yes, I was educated and I knew things, but I didn't know things specifically when it came to like having a child and how that was gonna go, in a hospital. And so yeah, like we really had to fight to get out of that situation. And when it comes to like the birth certificate, doing that paperwork and stuff, like I'm educated, so I already know, okay, listen, I'm not gonna sign this because I don't know what this stuff means. I need a lawyer. All right, cool, no problem. We ain't getting no pressure from that. Boom.
Okay.
And that's gonna be in most cases. Like you can get up out of there if you say something like that. Don't
I
try
think that's
to.
a really good thing to say, right? Because this is paperwork, and I don't know. I need my lawyer to overlook this paperwork, so give you some stalling.
Exactly.
Got it.
And that's keeping it,
And
professional.
it's plain, simple.
You're
Yeah.
not being belligerent, because being belligerent is like the worst thing that you could do. Worst thing. Like we could be in your private capacity, start being belligerent. Now you default to being a public U.S. citizen. So that's the right thing to do. And so, man, we, kind of went over some of the wishes that we want, when it comes to
And you all
delayed
had a birth
plan.
plan and
No, we didn't. We had a birth plan, but not when it, like, we didn't give them notice of that because we didn't plan on coming to the hospital.
right.
So we didn't have a birthing plan like for the hospital. It was kind of just like, well, this is what we had planned on, and these are our wishes.
Got
So we
it.
kind of had to negotiate that, and you know what I mean, like best we could. Which we got majority of our wishes, but
What were some of the things you didn't get?
I can't really remember right now. I think we pretty much got everything.
Okay, like were you like no vaccines, no vitamin K,
yeah,
stuff like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely, those are definitely things that we keeping the placenta.
Okay,
yeah.
that's what I was gonna say.
So we
How
was
was
able
that?
to do all
That
that.
The reaction from the nurse or the doctor saying you wanted to keep the placenta?
Yeah, all that, at first they was just going crazy about it, not really, but we negotiating that. You know what I
Right.
mean? These are our wishes. We not really willing to, step off from that. So
And that just comes with more paperwork, right?
I mean,
Taking the
if
placenta
you're
home.
yeah, I mean as far as in that moment, yeah, signing paperwork, like a waiver, really.
Yeah. Okay.
So, that was cool. That was all right,
So you left the hospital with no record.
Well, we had to fight to get out of that hospital though, because I forget what level. Some levels came back high or whatever. I can't remember what it was. You know what I mean? But some levels came out high, and so yeah, they didn't want to let us go. They was like, well, y'all can go, but the baby gonna stay here. But of course, we not. You know what I mean?
Right.
Go for that. But ultimately, like we were, like I'm educated in law, and she's just, a fighter. So we basically in that thing studying and figuring out, and we going at them, and we got to talk to the right people eventually, and yeah, we got out of there. No birth certificate paperwork being done, like no nothing. Got to take our baby home and everything. But then CPS. Then CPS happened. And that came about because every step of the way, it was like we had to fight and it was going to be paperwork. And I say this because stuff can get really wicked, really, really wicked, especially in the hospital. There was a guy there who seemed to like be slightly an advocate for us and was just trying to, navigate the situation and like keep both sides calm and stuff. You know what I mean? It was kind of like that energy. So he was explaining some stuff because, like we smoke weed and stuff. You know what I mean? And I guess
that the
like
level
that
that
was.
came back high? No.
You said what?
I said, was that the level that came back
Nah.
high? No.
But that I guess that was a concern because one of the previous tests or whatever. But like he had to sign some paperwork and something like that, and then it turns out like nobody at the hospital like even knew like who he was like after it, because we like tried to come back and we was making a claim and like we was trying to talk to him, and you know what I mean, like nobody knew who he was. Nobody ever heard of his name before. Like they was like, yeah, nobody like even looks like that works here in this department. It was all that. So it's like really wicked and like eerie and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
then next thing I know, boom, CPS is like showing up to one of my properties like every other day or damn near every day. So now I got this CPS case that's going on. And, I had to fight that. And
So were they trying to take your daughter?
yeah, there was like an actual.
Did they take your daughter?
No.
Okay.
There was an actual, there was a warrant out for my daughter. There were
Wow.
for an
Warrant for-
interrogation. Yeah,
And for your newborn.
yeah,
Wow.
because they want to interrogate her or something
That's
like
crazy.
that. But yeah.
Yeah.
And so yeah, but like I got multiple properties, and like in this space, like you don't put your home address on nothing. Like nothing. You used post office address. Like all my mail go to the post office. Don't nobody come to my door. Yeah, none of that. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I had to deal with this case, and so I just expressed, I'm coming in my private capacity, challenge jurisdiction, abatement, disappear from the docket. that was done.
And this kind of seemed like it's the same process.
That's how you start out, but
Okay.
I mean, that's how you start out. Is it always going to go like that? No, but I educate the people. We always prepare to go to appeals. Like the lower court cases that you get pulled into, you can't really, like, I know a lot of people see the testimonials and see we get remedy in these lower court cases, but that's just honestly, and that's not, I'm not trying to brag, but that's just because I'm highly skilled and that's how I kind of like educate people. But the reality of it is we are going into these court cases literally preparing for appeals. We're not, yes, we want to beat this court case, but we're preparing for appeals. Like that's our whole, our whole objective. So
Okay.
yeah, that's how I approached it still. That's how we approach all of them. And yeah,
So okay, so they're coming to one of your homes trying to find your daughter. They're trying to find her or find y'all, the parents.
all of us.
All of us. Okay. And then what do? You just went to the court to say I'm representing myself, or you?
Yeah, so I went up to the court and I filed the paperwork. Yeah, and I filed the paperwork on behalf of us.
Okay. So they never got the daughter though.
Never got my daughter.
Good.
Never got my daughter. And actually, they showed up to my property, one of my properties, that same one, on a Sunday. It was doing Airbnb, and we had guests in there. Luckily, they was cool about it, but still, they like forced their way in and everything. But yeah, like they never got my daughter. And then another thing that's important that I like to tell people is like, literally the prosecutor and the CPS agent, like they commented on the case. What I was saying was sovereign citizen stuff. Let's be clear. Nothing that I talk about is sovereign citizen activity. I get it. It looks like it. People get it mixed up because they just don't understand.
And what's the difference between the two?
Sovereign citizens are truly people that just jump from law firm to law firm. So they might be studying consumer law, then they might jump to trust law, then they might jump to, and then they just think like it all meshes together when it doesn't. And they will express this in their paperwork though, thinking that they have authority. It's like you don't. You're not expressing it in the right, like you don't understand what you're doing. So that's the sovereign citizen like activity. We like to say, you just throwing mud at the wall and see what sticks,
Okay.
You're not, or like you might be trying to use consumer law or just some public law to assert private rights, and like you can't do that. So that's sovereign citizen activity.
Okay.
But yeah, the CPS agent and the prosecutor commented on the court case in the notes that that's what we were doing. But they always gonna say stuff like that. You know what I mean? What is the judge saying? If the judge don't say you're doing sovereign citizen activity, keep on, you know what I mean? Keep
Right.
doing what you're doing.
Right.
But if the judge say that you are, then you probably messed up somewhere, go back, regroup. My case disappeared from the docket.
So are you cool with judges?
So cool with judges, I wouldn't say like cool, like in terms
Or are you
of
familiar?
yeah, like I know a couple retired judges.
Okay,
You know what I mean?
okay.
They're not all federal, but yeah, I know a few.
And do
we're
you
able to
have
converse.
conversations with them about what you do?
Yeah. Not often, but
Okay.
often enough.
And they can understand your perspective, obviously, because you win.
Yes, they understand. They know. It's us who don't know. And it's majority of lawyers who don't know. But the more that you go up in law, like, you're just going to know, especially if, depending on what law field.
I don't know if I can get that, though. The lawyers don't know.
Yeah, because, again, everything in this world, how we brought up, is to take you away from God. What I talk about is God's authority. This is God's law. Exclusive equity jurisprudence is literally God's law. It's as if they took the Christian Bible, the scripture, and turned it into law. Like that's, you know what I mean? So this is God's authority. And yeah, so that's why they don't teach in law school. Because
Wow.
law, the public side of the law, statutes, codes, and everything, that's actually converting your private rights your private wealth to public rights, to public wealth that doesn't favor you.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, like, equitable assets, like, that's the wealth that everybody wants,
And
regardless
give
if
me
they
some
know it or not.
examples of equitable.
So the best way to understand this is, I'll give you 2 examples.
Mm-hmm.
So if I give you my phone and let's just do this. All right. So if I give you my phone and be like, yo, I'm about to go around the corner. I'll be back like an hour. All right.
Mm-hmm.
When I come back, I need my phone. If I don't come back, yo, my mom's coming. She'll get it.
Right.
All right. So do you own the phone?
No.
Who owns it?
You.
All right. But you have possession of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I have equitable interest.
Okay.
So if you sold my phone, I didn't give you permission to do that, right? So you have to pay me for that, right? Or if I be like, yo, I'll let you rent my phone out to use it or whatever, but you gotta pay me. I have equitable interest. I hold equitable title. You have possession of it. So you have legal title. You have to continue to pay me.
Right.
That's an equitable interest. That's an equitable title.
Okay. So the owner
Yes.
always has the equity.
Yes.
Got it.
But now, your assets, right? You're always paying taxes on assets, right? Interest, property taxes, and all that, right? That's how you know you don't hold equitable title. That's the easiest way to understand that you don't hold equitable title.
So basically, we don't own anything.
Exactly.
Same because we pay taxes on everything.
Exactly.
Wow. But when you go private, you own.
The trust owns it. You don't want to own anything.
Okay.
You want to be able to control.
Got it.
You want to be able to control everything.
And when you have it under a trust, you don't have to pay taxes.
So I'm not going to say that.
Okay.
I'm not going to say that. Can that be achieved? Yes. But I'm not going to just give a blanket statement like that.
For sure. Because people are like, what?
Yeah, I'm not with that blanket statement stuff because I know it's a lot that goes into it, and I just try to keep it transparent and real with people. Can it be achieved? Yeah. Can you know what I mean? Yes, you should study it and look to and aim to reduce your tax liability and understand how all of that works. Yeah, can it be achieved? Yes.
Wow. I feel like I'm finding a common thing happening. Like you have nurses or doctors that don't get educated about nutrition when that's one of the most important things we need to know. And if they're our health advocate, they should know these things, right?
Yes.
You got lawyers that's not that don't know about the things you're talking about, but they should know because they should be protecting us from the law. So it's like, wow, these missing ingredients are missing in their schooling, in their education that will actually help him protect the people that they're saying they want to help him protect. Wow.
That's that's the design. I hate it, but that's the world that we live in.
Wow.
Yeah. Even like financial literacy, right? Now, it's a big thing now, but they've always pushed against it. And even now it's really a push against it, or more so a race to stay ahead of the game as far as elites go, right? But I look at that financial literacy and I don't hate on it at all because I think it's great for majority, for everybody. But I still look at it like that's just the public side of things. Like there's an entire different world that nobody understands, so.
Like what though?
Like, private equity. Like they don't, Like they don't understand. Like I put it to you like this. You go buy a car, you sign a promissory note, right? Anything that has your signature on it is truly an equitable asset. You have an equitable interest in it. It's being converted to a legal asset by way of statutes and codes. So that means your private wealth, that's an equitable asset. You're being robbed of your wealth.
By signing the promissory note.
And yes, by signing it and not telling them in what capacity that you're coming in and not giving them instructions on like what to do with that. Like, yes, we just sign papers away. It's just like, all right, if you go buy a car and you sign a promissory note for $50,000, you just sign it, right? Typically, we just sign it. Well, that's just like giving away $50,000. Actually, it could be in a few months or even more than that. It's really like giving away $500,000 because they're going to take that promissory note and they're going to trade on it. So basically, they're going to use it like money and do deals with it, bundle it up and do deals with it.
Wow.
So yes, a promissory note on face value could be 50,000, but the true value could be like 500,000. It could be more than that. So when you think of it like that, it's like, damn, you just gave away 500,000, in equity to a stranger,
Yeah.
and they got you thinking it's just all about $50,000 in a car.
Right. Right.
I would give you 500. Listen, I would give you a car. I would give you a car too if I know I'm about to get 500,000.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're gonna be happy with that. Oh, why not? It's business. You.
Yeah. And they trick us. They get us. Because anything we sign off to, we don't really understand the terms and conditions. And that's why they say, do you agree to these terms and conditions? And nobody is reading all of these pages of the terms and conditions because we can't use it if we don't agree to it. So it's like,
Yeah,
I want it. So yeah, I got to agree. I'm going to sign it. Yeah, I want the car. I need the car.
Want the car, need the car. Boom. That's what it comes down to. Want the car, need the car. You say I can get it. All right, boom. Let me sign right here. And they know that.
Yeah.
They know that. They know that. So when you know somebody knows that, like, you shiesty, like they shiesty, you can put whatever you want in there. They gonna sign it. It don't matter. They gonna sign it.
Wow.
It's only a small percentage of people who's not gonna sign it. And guess what? We'll pay them. We'll pay them. I'm about to make $900 billion over here. We can pay this guy $100,000 for violations. Who cares? I'll pay every time.
Wow. This is good. And you did give us some references that if someone is interested in learning more, some of the teachers you learned from. And then let's also shed, let's highlight some of the things you have going on. So you said you have books. Do you do webinars or workshops or anything?
So yeah, we probably got about 10 ebooks now overall that's specific to like child support, home birth, child custody, traffic tickets, stuff like that. I do webinars on typically on a Thursday, like 7 p.m. Eastern. We'll do a webinar. It's not every Thursday, but we do them. And we do Q&As every week in the academy. I have a lawful community for like, I say like, beginners, people that's just now coming into, this space. It's a little bit easier for them to understand. And yeah, like I do live workshops to help people correct their status.
Okay. Yeah, this we need this information. So anybody who is watching, make sure you tap in. Let the people know where they can find you.
All right, so you can find me on Instagram, Amyr_law, AMYR_law, LAW. Got MatisseAcademy.com, MATISSE Academy.com. We lit on the page, you know what I mean? We lit on the page, all the information's on there, free information out there.
Okay, and I ask every guest this last question. So what's one piece of advice you would like to give to the world?
One piece of advice that I would like to give to the world. Understand that when you're learning something, you can only retain like 8 to 10% of the information that you're reading. So you have to be consistent in reading it, going over the information, and even executing. you have to be consistent with that. I would say, yeah, that's the best advice I can give, and I like to give that to every, what I mean, even to my students, because like that's how I learned. That's what helped me when I understood that. Like it's a science to learning almost. It's like, yo, okay, take a break, then get back to it. Go over the same information again.
Repetition.
Yes, repetition. You're gonna learn something new every time you go over the same information. Literally. So that's the advice I can give.
Okay, that's some really good advice. And thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Wholistic Conversations. And I'll see you next time.
Peace.
Peace.